Here's the highlight of the biggest stories we tracked for you over the course of this week. Now, on the local front, President Muhammadu Buhari has unveiled the eNaira, recording well over 5,000 downloads within the first hours of its launch. The CBN has also launched a new policy to financially support 100 targeted private sector companies in 100 days. And in the energy sector, the World Bank has decried the continued spending by the Nigerian government in petrol subsidy, which is on track to gobble as much as 2.9 trillion naira this year, as fuel subsidy is also expected to end by June 2022. On the international front now, Britain's Heathrow Airport Limited says it is still reporting losses and does not expect air traffic to recover completely until at least 2026, even as the travel industry gathers some steam in the third quarter on easing restrictions. And now divisions have deepened among EU countries ahead of an emergency meeting of ministers on their response to a spike in energy prices, with some countries seeking a regulatory overhaul and others firmly opposing. Shares in China Evergrande Group and its electric vehicle unit started the week strong as the embattled property developer moved to prioritize growth of its nascent electric vehicle business over its troubled core real estate operations. On that note, it's now time to bring you packages prepared by our correspondents in this first report. Importers can now take delivery of the vehicles imported into the country in just 4 hours. Well, that's if they are compliant to the nation's trade guidelines. The Comptroller PTML Customs Command gave the assertion while disclosing that more than 171,000 units of vehicles were imported through the port between January and September this year. TVC News correspondent eNaira reports.
PTML is one of Nigeria's rolling rollout ports. Between January and September this year, more than 171,000 units of vehicles have been processed from the terminal, as against the less than 100,000 units of vehicles that were imported at the same period in 2020. The PTML Customs Controller attributes the increase in vehicle import to the command's technology-driven operations. He notes that this has enabled speedy clearance processes from the port, unless for non-compliant traders.
You can take your vehicle within 24 hours, and even if our system is profiled, there will be empirical evidence to that effect that this is happening and it will continue to happen as long as people are compliant. And I think this must have reflected here, where in 2020 we had 97,361 units, and look at this year we have had 171,491 units. So something must have been the attraction. We have the pull factor, and that's a pull factor.
Giving a comparative rundown of the command's activities for the third quarter of 2021 and 2020, he states that a total of 135 vessels berthed between January and September this year, as against the 115 vessels that called at the port at the same period in 2020. He affirms that the increase in throughput impacted revenue collections in the third quarter of 2021 to the tune of 165.02 billion naira, compared to the 138.03 billion naira recorded in the third quarter of 2020, indicating a 20% increase in collections.
And now in this next report, players in the Nigerian insurance industry have been advised to utilize innovation and creative approaches to growth. They are told to do better and also align with global trends so as to explore the industry's potentials of being a large employee of labor and helping the country meet its employment needs.
In major climes of the world, insurance contributes largely to gross domestic product. This is yet to be the case in Nigeria, despite the huge population, as the industry still grapples with challenges of actualizing its full potentials. Players in the country's insurance brokerage industry believe the industry has the capacity to employ thousands of graduates on an annual basis, thereby helping address the country's unemployment challenges. They would like more government support for the industry while seeking greater innovation and creativity to further drive the sector's growth.
As of today, it is gradual, but it is not where it should be yet, because the education of the public about insurance is still very low, and the industry is trying to make sure that the public is well educated through so many avenues like the social media, advertisement, through policy explanation and all the things.
Swift response to the settlement of claims that arose from the NSAS crisis, which are told is over 9 billion naira, cannot go without mention on occasion like this. The insurance industry has done well.
The insurance brokers say today's environment is fast-paced, with technology advancing alongside globalization. They feel the insurance sector cannot distance itself from challenges that require innovation, which is critical to the sector's advancement.
We are positioning ourselves as an industry to ensure that the African trade is part of the things that will level on, because everything that will cross borders, everything that will come in or go out, we will ensure that we are part of the insurance process.
There is a serious improvement with regards to the improvement in the area of reviewing the law establishing insurance industry in the country and other resolutions that are related to the industry. Nigeria is the largest market in Africa, and as far as insurance is concerned in Nigeria today, is not encouraging.
Players in the industry are advised to better collaborate amongst themselves as the Council of Registered Insurance Brokers seeks to stimulate financial solvency, strategic government and institutional relations, as well as corporate visibility sustenance. This is coming against the backdrop of the investiture of a new leadership for the Council following the expiration of tenure of the previous president.
Well, it's now time to bring you a feature on the show today. We are looking at the reactions which have trailed the launch of the eNaira. Don't go nowhere. Many thanks for still staying with us. Now it's time to bring you the details and the crux of today's matter. President Muhammadu Buhari has launched the eNaira platform, making Nigeria the first African country to adopt a digital currency. Well, this was at the start of the week, and the eNaira is a culmination of several years of research by the Central Bank of Nigeria in advancing the boundaries of payment system. It is also expected to increase Nigeria's GDP by at least to $29 billion over the next 10 years. Our correspondent, Taya Modu, tells us more in this report.
The launch of the eNaira makes Nigeria the first country in Africa, one of the first in the world to introduce a digital currency to her citizens. The president, who is pleased that the development, is optimistic that the introduction of the eNaira would enable the government send direct payments to citizens eligible for specific welfare programs, as well as foster cross-border trade.
This move was underpinned by the fact that the CBN has been a leading innovator in the form of money they produce and in the payment services they deploy for efficient transactions. They have invested heavily in creating a payment system that is ranked in the top 10 in the world and certainly the best in Africa.
He commends the governor of the central bank, Godwin Emefiele, his deputies and the entire team of staff who worked tirelessly to make the launch of Africa's first digital currency a reality. In his remarks, the CBN governor explained that eNaira is the digital equivalent of the physical naira, a legal tender in Nigeria and designed to secure safeguards and maintain the integrity of the financial system.
Establish that a digital currency will drive a more cashless, inclusive, and digital economy and will complement the gains of previous policy measures and a fast-growing payments platform in Nigeria.
He pledged that there will be strict adherence to the anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism, AML-CFT standards, in order to preserve the integrity and stability of Nigeria's payment system.
The CBN has given careful consideration to the entire payments and financial architecture and has designed the eNaira to complement and strengthen these ecosystems and have implemented secure safeguards and policies to maintain the integrity of the financial system.
The CBN is also to introduce a new financial instrument titled the 100 for 100 PPP, policy on production and productivity. It will be anchored in the Development Finance Department under the direct supervision of the central bank governor. Under this policy, the CBN would advertise, screen, scrutinize, and financially support 100 targeted private sector companies in 100 days, beginning from the 1st of November 2021, and roll over every 100 days with a new set of 100 companies whose names will be published in national dailies for Nigerians to verify and confirm.
And now joining me to discuss this and more, I have Mujib Ishola, the head, Payments, Technology and Infrastructure System Specs. Good to have you on the show today.
Good morning.
Now, at the start of the week, we saw the government unveil the eNaira. How do you expect this to help boost the GDP? How do you also see this redefining business transaction in the country, financial inclusion, and what does this mean for the digital space, especially along the West African country? We've had mixed reactions over the course of this week.
A lot to unpack there. There are three main things in there. Let's talk about the business landscape, for instance, right? Once the eNaira takes the shape the CBN has planned for, it'll be easier to have remittances coming into the country. When I mean easier, it's all about money movement as opposed to the monetary policies and everything else that makes that money available. In terms of the instruments used to move the money, there's going to be some new ways of doing that. So if you think about the way currency trading happens right now, you have different currency pairs. So eNaira against something like the eUan or the Eastern Caribbean dollars and the rest of it would be made possible once CBN has moved past this current phase. In the current form, that would not be possible because the state of which in which the platform is right now does not allow for that. But eventually, it will get there. In terms of financial inclusion, I've always said that financial inclusion is really not shouldn't be discussed in isolation of economic inclusion. Before you can talk about financial inclusion, you need to think about the context in which that's going to play out. A lot of people don't need accounts or wallets or whatever other instruments of storing value for the sake of storing value. The point is they're storing value to be able to do something. In terms of financial inclusion, what I see the eNaira allowing us to do is to easily disburse funds. What do I mean? Take the instance of the palliative distribution, saga, right? That could have been made easier if, using a wallet system. It doesn't necessarily mean using the eNaira as the means of storing value is the only way to do it. It is a way to do it. And since CBN is taking the full position on this, it will make it easier for this to happen. Don't forget, almost every adult in Nigeria has a mobile phone, which means that by virtue of having a mobile phone, the telcos have done some level of KYC, some level of knowing who that person is. It kind of like unburdens the government from doing that particular phase of the customer onboarding process for eNaira. You could then use that data to distribute eNairas into the different wallets of these people. It makes it easier. It makes it controlled. The transparency as far as operating this kind of scheme will be easier from a CBN standpoint. So that's to go to financial inclusion. But in the current form, you could argue that we're not there yet of ticking that particular box, because what we have right now is a situation where you need a mobile phone to access this platform via the speed wallet or your banking platform and the rest of it. So right now, the base system is still being prepared towards enabling that particular aspect of the project. In terms of the digital economy, we need to understand that CBN has actually done a great job by at least getting this project to this particular point. The opportunities to build new products or new product coming on stream with taking advantage of the capabilities of the eNaira, right, is going to open a lot of, new fronts. People can now create products without thinking or worrying about how they will get access to store values or accounts or monies.
And now we've also seen well over 100,000 downloads of this app, the eNaira app now, but there are challenges with regards to the sign-up. Was this expected?
If you've been a builder or a solutions provider for a long time, these things are not new. You plan for them, right? But I would like to go back to one thing for us to understand why this app was even launched in the first place, right? The app was launched as a way to quickly get to a different phase of the project, right? It's not the end goal. CBN is not supposed to be taking part in retail transactions, right? They're not supposed to be coming down to the retail level. CBN's role and responsibility as prescribed in all the policy documents and by law is monetary governance and everything else that does with managing the financial system, right? Not to be a player within that system. That role and the responsibility is shifted to the banking sector and everybody around that to provide that final milestone or the final mile delivery when it comes to those kind of systems. Now, the Speed Wallet, from everything we've read out there, is meant to be a way to quickly get this project going. On the Speed Wallet, what you could do, is the initial entry point for onboarding and getting your wallet IDs and the rest of it. If you look at what majority, the Fantastic Works, the banks and every other player within that sector have done is to begin to integrate this within their mobile banking platforms and internet banking platforms to allow you easily access it. Now, let's understand that the banks and the different players and the different product providers, right, they've been doing this for a very long time and understand what the customer actually needs. What we have right now is either a product engineering or a product or project management situation where we are trying to balance out what needs to be done when. In this current phase to test the base platform, in my opinion, the Speed Wallet is just serving as the initial entry point. So it is understandable that these issues will come up, and I expect that from all the feedbacks that are coming from the app stores, from the different quarters, these are going to be taken very seriously, and the banks and the other providers within the sector are going to definitely learn from it.
Okay, now, one of the critical elements as well that analysts are looking out for following this digital currency launch is the element of transparency and regulatory oversight. How fundamental would you say this is, using cues from other economies and crypto trading? What are some lessons that you expect are to be replicated, mistakes not to be made to have a successful digital currency?
By the very nature of what CBN is meant to be doing, they're meant to be providing regulatory oversight. And when it comes to the technology of the day, DLTs, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies, what I have been calling for is that oversight being brought onto the public cryptocurrency and blockchain project. So for me, CBN involving the banks and also taking the lead on this is actually a very good thing, because it means that all the implied security apparatus that is inherent in our current financial system has been brought on board. Take for instance, before you can get onto the e-wallet, you need to be KYC'd using some data points, your BVN, your NIN, and other things. Those are already apparatus that CBN uses to monitor and part of what he used to ensure that everybody's playing right within the financial space. So that's very, very welcome, right? When it comes to lesson learned and cryptocurrency trading, I must say that the eNaira, it's not on the same level as the public cryptocurrencies like the Bitcoin, the Ethereum, and the rest of them. It's not on the same level. There are different types of cryptocurrencies, right? But what I would like to see is a situation where CBN actually opens up the conversation for us to have an open conversation around, okay, the people want public cryptocurrencies and they're doing it anyway. P2P is still thriving. It hasn't stopped. It hasn't slowed down. It's still happening. How do we leverage on what people are doing and bring that into the fold of what is good for a sovereign entity? Do we begin to license cryptocurrency exchanges? Do we begin to tax profit made off cryptos? what do we need to do to take advantage of that technology? When it comes to transparency, by the very nature of it, blockchain offers that opportunity, and it offers the base technology to make that happen. Every single token issued, right, can be traced from when, where, how it is being used. So that's a given from the very nature of the technology. Is this going to be open to the public? That's a different conversation entirely.
Now, the eNaira is expected to provide effective, equitable, and faster distribution of cash assistance to households and communities, including government social welfare programs. Some see a flaw in this, especially the perceived reach or coverage, as not everyone in rural areas or even in urban areas has phones that can download the app.
So what CBN has done is offered a base platform. That's what they're offering right now. That's where we are, right? If you think about the different way we access finance these days, or our accounts and other systems these days, they are layered on top of the base systems. If you think of USSD and say, okay, people in the rural area don't have high-powered mobile phones, Android and iOS. We have the USSD as a means of accessing those platforms. Those things are layered on top of a base platform. There are various ways of accessing this platform. Eventually, it will be open to agents, merchants, USSD access, and whatever other technology of the day comes when it comes to accessing information and digital services. Right now, we are just at a phase where CBN has provided this base platform, and the only way to access it currently is through your mobile phone. Eventually, trust the tech space. We will come up with various ways of accessing this eNaira and the e-wallet.
And now the fate of the Naira is also experiencing some free fall against global currencies like the pound sterling, the dollar, and much more. Do you see this initiative helping to reintroduce some stability to the Naira, using the scenario of countries that have already experienced some similar fate of dwindling value?
Straightforward answer to that is no, right? I think we should not mix up ways of transmitting money and ways of creating value for money. The only way to make the Naira appreciate, right, is through monetary policies, through investments, through producing something. Right now, we don't produce enough, right? Right now, we're still pushing the oil, the fossil fuel type markets and the rest of it. Yes, agriculture is coming up, but until we start to produce a lot more items and a lot more goods that other country wants, right, we can't start then talking about the method of shifting the money. If you have 1,000 Naira in your pocket, whether you put it in your wallet or you put it under your pillow, your 1 Naira is that same 1 Naira until you figure out how to invest the 1 Naira and turn it into 1,000,000 Naira. It's not going to change. It's not going to, but once you start creating goods and services that other people want, moving that money between those different countries and those different entities that want your service becomes slightly easier. Think of the way currency are traded today. You have the Naira against the dollar against the pounds, and the rest of it. What would happen is we will get to the stage where we are trading the eNaira against some other digital currencies, right? That's all that's going to happen. It just means that accessing the finance or accessing the money you've gotten from the trade you've made, right, becomes a little bit easier. I mean, you can't do anything. You can't just simply create value from movement of an item. You need to think about the monetary policies, balance of trade, environments that make it easier for FDIs to coming into the country. Those are separate conversations. So the answer is I don't see it on the immediate, improving the value of the Naira.
Lastly, now, just before I let you go, what sort of forecast do you also see playing out in the short to medium and long term in terms of global blockchain solutions, and Nigeria also taking a stronger footing?
What is happening now and what would happen, say, second quarter, is we'll see a lot more blockchain solutions coming on stream. Right now, there were two big announcements in the news, I think, last week, where two major players within the fintech space has embraced the blockchain, as a base platform. Now, what that means is, as an institution, you begin to see a lot more blockchain type products, in settlements, in remittances type solutions, right, would be coming on stream. That's going to be a lot stronger. In terms of the eNaira, I see the eNaira, it's not going to go anywhere. The consultants have been paid already, right? And then we need to get value from it. And that is going to be stronger in terms of the way it's going to be used. It's going to be stronger. The platform is going to get more stable. And then, it opens new frontiers for product developers to come up with new products. They're going to come up with a whole host of products, and we can already see them as well. As you well know, the courts have decided that there's nothing illegal in cryptocurrency trading, right? Yes, it's still, it's still in the courts and things like that, which means that the conversation would only get stronger and louder. And then I believe that by third quarter, fourth quarter next year, we would have a better position on public cryptocurrencies and blockchain.
Thank you very much for your time on the show today, Mujibu Shala. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Welcome.
And just before we go now, here graphic details of the selected food price watch for the month of September as prepared by the National Bureau of Statistics. That's it in this edition of Business Week. Many thanks for watching so far. Bye for now.